Hey, Divi Nation. I am back. It is Friday afternoon. I'm BJ, and we are here with This Week in WordPress with every bit of the absolute best news, tutorials, and resources that I could find this week. I really want to share them with you guys, so let's get started. And once again, I didn't unmute my mic before I started. So, hi, Divi Nation. I'm BJ, and this is This Week in WordPress, where we go over all of the best news, tutorials, and resources that were put out this week in WordPress. I go through and try to find as many links as I can to make your weekend and professional development just fun and as really as informative as possible. So, if you have anything that you've been doing this week in WordPress that you'd like to share or talk about, or any kind of questions that are going on, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm watching those on YouTube and Facebook and do my very best to interact as well as I can. And we also have a whole lot of people in the comments just from the community in general and the Elegant Theme staff as well, where if you have any questions or anything, we do our best to answer it, and the community answers a lot as well. So how are you guys doing today? Let's get started. So hopefully you guys are doing fantastic. This week has been excellent for me as well. I just wanted to start off today by saying I really thank you for being here. There were some comments before the show started on YouTube about how this was becoming a habit and that it was the best Friday night ever. So I'm like, that's the kind of thing that I want to hear. So thank you guys. Hi. Oh man, I cannot. Hello to Spain and to England. I know I've got English people watching, and to Argentina as well. So let's dig into the news and see what we can get drummed up here. Today, I was really looking through, or this week rather, I shouldn't say today. This week I was looking through, and there is a lot of Gutenberg stuff this week. I'm sorry if that's good or bad for you one way or the other, but there's been a lot going on with Gutenberg lately, especially as we're going into that area near where they said in December that we might be getting it in April to 5.0. So they've introduced now, the Make WordPress core people have introduced a plugin called the, well, that's not a plugin, it is the Gutenberg Plugin Compatibility Database, where they've put together a database of all the plugins in the repo that are eligible right now within the confines of the requirements that they've put on for like good plugins, like updated within the last 3 updates of WordPress and that kind of thing. So they've put this database together to show which ones are Gutenberg compatible and which ones that even matters with. So when they did this, they're going to need y'all's help. So the first link under news is the link to where you can basically sign up and work on this and just check any kind of plugins that you use. It's really interesting because everything we do is community driven. It's really a way for us to say, you know, we're using this on our site and it broke. They've talked about if you're running a WordCamp or a meetup that it's going to take so many person hours to get this done that we're really going to have to work together to do it. And if you see a plugin that on there, or that you know of a plugin that has nothing to do with Gutenberg and that it won't break, you can go in there and edit the database and say, this has nothing to do with the editor, and that is updating it, because we have to know that kind of thing. So whatever you do, go in and maybe you'll be able to contribute. And if we'll talk about it a little bit later, but if you're not able to contribute to core in any way and you haven't done that before, this is a really good way to get your feet wet of just seeing what the community does when we come together and work on a project. So Gutenberg, the Gutenberg plugin compatibility database is up and running, so check that out. And hi Corey, I see you in the comments on Facebook, and everyone from St. Louis to Bangladesh, Vancouver, Washington, Denmark, Brazil, Brazil, churrasco, just makes me think about it. I had some Brazilian students for years who were telling me that I needed to get churrasco, and they would tell me about going on Sunday afternoons and eating it with their family. And when I finally was able to go and eat at a restaurant that had it, they were incredibly happy. So every time I see Brazil, I think of Vinny and Fabio and the churrasco they have with their family. So hello everyone. And Radapalua, the plugin Gutenberg is free, yeah, and the database the compatibility database is just them putting it up on there. It's a web app, so Gutenberg is completely free as well on the repository. So also this week I've seen a whole lot of stuff with the GDPR compliance that we talked a little bit about that last week, and every week that this is a really big deal in the WordPress. Well, not even just WordPress, just technology in general. Anything going with technology and web access is going to be affected by GDPR. And what that is the European new privacy standards, where if you collect anything about anyone from Europe, even if you're not in Europe, you have to let them know what you're getting, why you're using it, and give them a way to delete it. So there is a WP Tavern article this is the second one on the news. There's a WP Tavern article talking about how there's a new team on WordPress core specifically to make sure that WordPress as a whole, as the core software that we're using, is GDPR compliant. That means that any of the base functionality that we have, where people can interact and send contact forms, anything like that, as long as it's saved to a database, the WordPress core has to be able to address that. There's going to be a lot of it with it's going to be a lot of it with different plugin developers having to deal with this. And there's the next article, the third article that I have here, is one Smashing Magazine did on GDPR that talks about how this is going to change your development cycles, where when you're developing software, when you're developing websites, what you have to change and think about when you're doing this, where it's not just this broad idea of anything that's going on, like, oh, this isn't going to affect me. It will probably affect every last one of us, down to the tiny blogger who is running a very small website. If you have someone send you through a contact form and say hello, then and that saves to a database, you have to be GDPR compliant and let them know what you're saving. So the Smashing Magazine really goes in and talks about the things that you should consider while you're developing all of this stuff, and just easy ways really to change your workflow without really affecting your efficiency. So that's something to really keep in mind. Excuse me. I see a couple of comments. So, hi Lori, hello to Canada. The north that I'm like 40 degrees, 50 degrees here today, and I'm cold right now, so I can't even imagine what you're going through. And Uncle Social says on YouTube, yay for me. Who knows how the UK will work with the GDPR or Europe or anything. Yeah, with all the stuff going on with the UK right now, that's going to be weird. You're still going to be affected by it. I mean, the United States and everywhere is going to be affected by GDPR. So we'll see how the official, response to it works. And so I wanted to just, remind you guys about all of that. Down in some of the other sections of the description here, there are links that we did one on Elegant Themes this week about GDPR compliance. Pagely did one down there called Worried About WordPress and GDPR, Start Here, which is kind of a tutorial to walk through the GDPR process. And I'm trying to find the title of ours that we had on the Elegant Themes site, but I can't quite see it just scrolling through, but there is one down there, and it's on the Elegant Themes blog. So this is everywhere this week. So you guys really need to make yourselves aware of GDPR compliance. So that said, there is also oh, there it is. Sorry, it was in the wrong place on my I put it together. It's in the news section as well. It's right under those two I just talked about. It's called A Quick Guide to Data Protection Regulations in 2018, and that's what it is. Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I'm ridiculous, and it was literally where my cursor was in my my notes here. So thank you, guys. Thank you for dealing with my brain, y'all. But that one's up there. Like Matthew said, Quick Guide to Data Protection Regulations in 2018. So I have a question from MD Module. Be happy to get some slider features than Divi. Hoping to add some sliding style. Yeah, that is one thing that with the sliders, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. I'm not sure if that's coming down the pipeline anytime soon. I know that there are a few third-party ones that work. I know that I saw a tutorial this week, I believe, where Jason had suggested using Revolution Slider and the code widget with Divi. So I'm not sure if that one's going to be coming anytime soon. I'm terribly sorry about that one. I haven't heard about it, but slider features are always fun. For me, the one I'm waiting on is a lot of hero sections. I like as many hero section options as I can possibly get. So I'm like, anything they can add in about that, I'm good with it. So I also want to just take this time for anybody who is just coming in right now, to be able to let you know what we're doing. I'm in the middle of the news section. This is the This Week in WordPress stream where we go over news and tutorials and resources. So, being in the middle of the news this week, I just wanted to remind you that every single link that I talk about today is in the description of this video. So you can expand it right now, see what is of interest to you. Keep open 100 different tabs. I'm expecting LV, if she is watching right now, to add another 30 to her open tabs, and hopefully be able to work through those eventually. Hopefully the rest of you guys will as well. Also, I see some stuff in the comments right now. What's up, Nicholas? Colombian Hosting says that Revolution Slider does work beautifully with Divi. Testimonial sliders, Matthew says, would be nice too. I know that there's a plugin for testimonials that we actually had Randy Brown do an overview and a review on the blog. I would check it out. I'm not sure if it's free or premium. I can't remember, but that kind of thing is actually on the blog. It was a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. It was there though. I would definitely look at it, and so I wanted you to know about that at least. And yeah, Revolution Slider I really like myself. So moving on, speaking of Gutenberg, like going back to the original one, I don't know if you guys know Matt Cromwell. He does the Give WP plugin, and it's he does it there. Goodness me, my mouth. He did an interview with Matt Mullenweg on, Gutenberg and everything that's coming up. That's kind of happening more and more often these days as it's pushing. And I wanted to bring this one up specifically because of a quote that WP Tavern pulled out of the podcast, out of the interview. And it seems really interesting to me the way that he put it, where he's not really backpedaling on what he said at WordCamp in December, but he's making sure that he doesn't commit to anything, which is honestly probably good for a lot of us right now. He says, talking about when it's coming out, he says, for those who want a concrete date, we will have 1 or 2 orders of magnitude more users of Gutenberg in April. So we're going to have 1 or 2 orders of magnitude more users of Gutenberg in April. But that doesn't necessarily mean a 5.0 release. But it does mean that if you're planning on aiming for something where a lot of users will be interacting with Gutenberg, aim for April. So I don't know what that means. I don't think any of us knows what that means, but I have a feeling that there's going to be an update for WordPress where Gutenberg is included as an option, that they're going to make it an update that way. That's what it sounds like to me. It may not be. I haven't really talked to anybody about that. That was just my kind of running with the idea. But if you're going to have a couple of magnitude couple of orders of magnitude greater than who is currently using Gutenberg, I don't see any way that that's possible within the next month without putting it in and giving a notification at the top saying that you can opt into trying it. Now, that was something that, using Gutenberg is something I've talked about trying before. And I actually this morning, I'm working with a WordCamp locally as being the content wrangler. And it was really interesting. We were putting up content. We're getting the website ready to go live, and I decided to completely go ahead and work with Gutenberg as for the post on tickets I was writing that I had that for one reason only. I knew that whenever I was writing this, it would let me put buttons inside the post without worrying about it, that there was a button block. And so as I was making this post and writing it today to try to get people to buy the tickets when they go live, I made sure that I used Gutenberg because I could add a button block to it. And that's something I do all the time in Divi. When I'm using Divi for blog posts or any kind of page builder, I always try to put in some sort of CTA that way to get people to interact. And when it was just a theme, when it was just a base part of the theme that we're using for the WordCamp, it was really interesting and really useful to have Gutenberg. It didn't give me the trouble that it had given in the past. So I will give it props for that. I have to say that I used it this morning before I started working, and it really, really did work well. So I'm proud of it, and we'll just see what they're doing. How are you guys doing with Gutenberg? Have you guys tried it yet? What are your feelings on it at this point? Because like one of the articles was saying later on, where people are giving it better reviews than they had. It was like solidly 1 star a few months ago, and people are starting to give it 5-star reviews. So I'm really curious about what you guys are thinking about this. Oh man, I dripped water everywhere. That said, I actually wrote an editorial this week that I wanted to give a quick shout out to because it's got a lot of good discussion in the comments going on, and I'd really like to hear from you guys as well on the value of WordPress developers and web designers in the Gutenberg era, where we've had a lot of people really afraid, and we've heard them be afraid of what's going on and where they're going to be and kind of put out of a job when Gutenberg comes because they're aiming at kind of DIYers, and I don't think that's the case. I think that everybody's job is just as secure, but we may have to pivot our expectations and what we plan on doing for a living. So check that out. There's a good discussion in it, and I'm hoping to be able to have more editorial type stuff like this in the future to be able to talk about, because as you guys know, I kind of like to talk with people. I've seen a couple of comments come here talking about LV had commented about all of her tabs that are going on, that her Mac couldn't process it any longer and she had to close them out. And it's just like this right here. This is where you hurt me. It's like, oh, just twist it, LV. And talking about Uncle Social said he doesn't know what Gutenberg would do that Divi doesn't do. The only thing that I personally like Gutenberg for better than Divi is using it specifically for blog content, that because Divi uses shortcodes in there that sometimes if anything breaks, and plugins mess up sometimes, stuff goes wrong occasionally. I want my blog, I tend to keep my blog content fairly clean with the code that I use, and Gutenberg does that without shortcodes. That is literally the only thing I will really ever use it for, because Divi gives me so many better options for it. But I use Gutenberg just to move paragraphs of text around and add buttons. That's the kind of thing I use it for. For page building, all the options and overlays and everything, it will never hold a candle to Divi. Simon says he's never an early adopter on stuff like this. I'm doing everything I can not to necessarily be an early adopter, but at least to give it a good try, I don't want to shut it out on a personal level without giving it a shot. But I'm like you and Uncle Social, and talking about Uncle Social says he doesn't want to end up like a Microsoft Zune owner. And there was an article, you guys, I need to look for it right now. You saying that, I want to find this and share it in the YouTube and Facebook comments. I think it was a Vice article. It was a Vice article that they did where people are still using Microsoft Zunes. I'm gonna link that in the comments here if you can get it. It'll probably add some really weird stuff at the very end of it. You might have to delete before it gets there. It'll end with the word failure, the URL will. And when you said that about who wants to end up like a Microsoft Zune owner, it's like these people love their Zune still. It is hilarious, and I love it. I ran across this a long time ago, and it's stuck in my head about people who just really, really love that one piece of technology, and it just works. And everybody has something like that you may have an old version of. I bet every one of you has a plugin on your WordPress site that you use that hasn't been updated in like 4 years, but you still use it because you like what it does and it still works. So that's the kind of thing that's arguing, showing people really like this. And Uncle Social says, remembers when the Zune was released and Microsoft boasted that unlike the iPod, the Zune was available in brown. Oh my goodness, in brown. That's what I want to carry around, is a brown piece of technology. And Claudio says that Divi's the best. Not seeing yourself going with Gutenberg. The community is amazing and really welcoming when you're a noob. And don't even get me started with the videos. Just incredible. I agree with that. I love our community. If you couldn't tell just a little bit here, I am like, you guys are fantastic. The community that I didn't know that Divi had this kind of community when I came into it. And I started working here and really just kind of fell in, and at WordCamps and everything like that, just being able to interact. The community here is just fantastic. It's nuts just how the Facebook groups and even in comments on these, it's wonderful, you guys. I'm so glad. And I'm the same way as you, Claudio. The community makes it so much better. And that was one of the reasons I actually picked WordPress to move into for freelancing when I did that last year, is because of the community around it, that I could find way more help and support and friendship than I could in Ruby when I was working with Ruby on Rails. And Dave says he still has a front page site. Nice, Dave. I haven't actually run a front page site in a long time. How does that still work? I'm actually curious. Does that still work actually pretty well? And LV found her 89 Game Boy, excuse me, still liking it. You got that green unreadable screen. Oh, I got to reach over here. My wife bought me this for my birthday, where she got me a Game Boy, that notebook. It's my notebook of stuff, where it's got Super Mario Land and one of the, I don't even remember what that's called, but it moves around. And I just love this thing. When you say Game Boy, it's like, I know that's real close to my heart. Hi, Rick. Good to see you here. So I wanted to just, talk about that, share that when I saw the Zune thing. So those kind of pieces of software, like you said, that we stick with, that we love. And I'm sorry I can never as you. I'm gonna say as you, because you wonder how ET will refine what we already have. We're working on that right now, actually. That's something that our team is working on to figure out exactly how we're going to refine everything, especially in terms of Gutenberg. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see what we're going to do, because I have some ideas. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And Dave said he has his front page site on A+, and it still supports front page extensions. That is awesome. I honestly, I did not know that there were hosts really that still supported a lot of front page extensions. So that's awesome. So moving on, moving into the tutorial section, you guys, if you look in the description of this video, you'll see all of the links that I'm talking about, remember, and the tutorial section is absolutely massive. That there were tutorials for everything published this week, that there were just so many of them, and I cannot get to hardly all of them. Like, there are going to be barely any of these that I'm going to actually be able to talk about. So I really do suggest looking through here, that there is some really, really good content put out. So look at them and give those people some love for putting this together. And Code NWP actually has one of my favorites this week, that they talk about how to give an interview on your blog. And I loved this idea, that they were talking about these best practices. It's actually called a beginner's guide to blog interviews, and they they have just everything on here like that you need to do, like how to talk to people. And I mean, really, that's very hard to do. That when you approach someone for doing a blog interview, you have to talk to them and be really open, because you're probably cold calling them, trying to give an elevator pitch on who you are and why they should talk to you, whether it's going to be a podcast or a written interview. If you're going to call them and then write something up, have them send you written interviews, all of this stuff has to be worked out first. And I think that it's a really good idea to read stuff like this before you actually get into interviews, because y'all, I'm terrible at them. Like I'm really bad at interviews. Hiring people, I'm not good at it. It takes so much practice to do. And I tend to be conversant back and forth when I talk with people, when I interact with someone. So it's really hard for me to actually go through and say, ask questions like, hello, sir, hello, ma'am, what are you doing? And that's not a natural conversation for me. So reading tips like this really helps me out. And as I write articles on the side and things like that, reading stuff like this has really helped. I do some magazine articles for my alma mater, for the alumni magazine, and one of the things is interviewing people, and I honestly had to look stuff up on really how to do this at first, because I'd never done it. So that was something that I thought you guys should check out with how to conduct blog interviews. And it was just talking about brainstorming people, how to approach them, being nice, really being nice and not being demanding of it is really, really something that a lot of people miss. They're like, hey, I'm doing a podcast, you should be on it. It's like, some people can get away with that. Most of us can't. So just pay attention to if that's something you want to move into. Looking at the comments that talking about that Rick said, it's great to have this close a community interaction. I'm completely agree with you. Dave, Uncle Social says, is the official This Week in WordPress web archaeologist, still working with that stuff, digging it up. But I think that's wonderful. Like, I really do. I'm really happy about that. Does anybody have Dreamweaver site still up? I've never been good at Dreamweaver. Never used it terribly much. Do I have a tutorial regarding LearnDash and Divi? I do not. Does anybody else? I don't use LearnDash. I'm actually going to see what that is. I do this all the time on my podcast. Whenever he's talking about something, I look and see what it is so I can actually talk about it too. And it's, an LMS plugin. Jason might have done something with LearnDash. I know we have an LMS layout pack for Divi. I don't know if LearnDash was the one that he used for the use case or not. That would be something to look for. I don't have one just off the top of my head, though. And Vedelescu asks, will Divi get better built-in support for WooCommerce? I had no idea. I don't. Well, when I say support, that's different. What do you mean by support? Because it's not something like we're probably going to be making individualized modules for storefronts and things like that. I don't expect that to happen. But in terms of if there are, like, do you mean like customizing store pages and things like that? That's something that is actually pretty hard to do because of the way that WooCommerce codes their page. Like, they don't even have an editor. You have to go in the PHP generally, and plugins that can do that. And I haven't heard anything about it, simply because of the nature of that plugin itself and ours. Nicholas says Mac did a video on that on his channel, so that's awesome. Is that WP User TV? I think. I can't remember it off right now. And there must be Spanish help at the same line you all do. I'm not sure I understand, but I will. Sure, somebody else does. So I'm going to move forward into the tutorials and just talk about these, because there are a bunch of them. Donietta this week did an absolutely wonderful how to make a vibrant CTA section for your next project with Divi. And if y'all have never seen any of her designs. Donietta makes some just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Like, I could never come up with this stuff. I just want to be, I'm just copy everything she does. And like, she did this today, I think was when it came out. Yes, today, where if you look at the Elegant Themes blog, the newest one is how these responsive CTA call to action blurbs on using Divi on our website. They're beautiful. And then Jason put together one of my, well, that's already down in resources, but I will do that right now because I just mentioned it. That Jason did a 25 hidden Divi features that you may not know about that will make your life a little bit better. And I love it. You guys, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I've learned so much about this. I love the fact, like you guys said, about the community. I love the fact that I'm part of a team where when we publish articles, that they help each other out. Like, people on the team are like, oh, I didn't know how to do that. And there's stuff that Jason found out and he talks about in the 25 hidden features that I had no idea you could do in Divi. I've been working here for so long and using Divi for so long that like, I didn't know, number one, searching options, that you can search your options in the search bar, that those times when you need to change the content title or whatever, the content heading, you can actually just type it in on anything. You don't have to scroll down to it and find it around. It's a big deal that I didn't know you could. I've never even paid attention that there was a little magnifying glass, search glass there. Talking about gradient images above background images. You guys, I've bought layouts before because I liked the way that the gradients over the backgrounds looked. I didn't know how to do that. I now do. Like, that's one of those embarrassing things for me, to be able to say that there's a button to do different colors on it. There are lots of, he has an entire like comprehensive list of keyboard shortcuts. Did you guys know there are Divi keyboard shortcuts? Use them. Wireframe view that looks like the back end view, except it's in the visual builder. Awesome. Inline editing, if you didn't know you could actually just type your blog into the post or any kind of content there. Customizable builder settings. And I'm scrolling through because there was one that I really, really wanted to point out for you guys, that there is, number 12 is removing the space below the image, that a lot of people have complained about this on the visual builder, that I see it a lot on Facebook pages. I've seen it a lot on just different groups and different chats that I've had with people on not using the visual builder because it adds a space at the bottom of images. And if it's the last thing on there, it will make everything look weird and kind of funky in your sections. You can remove it. There is an option to remove that is called show space below image, ? Yes, no. So it's there. Look at it. This kind of stuff that a lot of people are asking for, that they're asking for, and it turns out to be kind of a, well, this isn't here, and I don't like the way this works, so it's not there. It's been adjusted. So I really, really think you guys should look there. It's kind of hidden sometimes, but I want you guys to know about that they're there and they're awesome. So I thought you guys should know about it. So moving on into the tutorials. Well, actually, before I go into the tutorials, I've got some people talking that Grant actually does have 2 old school Dreamweaver sites up and running. That's awesome. I love this. Like, I love it. Like, I see stuff with GeoCity style. I think it's called NeoCities now, that I just adore. I love stuff like that. There's a premium plugin for custom WooCommerce Divi modules. Matthew says called Divi Plugin Highlight and WC Product Builder. That there's an easy way to customize store pages using Astra, GeneratePress, and OceanWP to have those options. Yes, and here's the thing. Let me tell you that Astra is great. GeneratePress, I've never used GeneratePress and OceanWP to be able to do that, but I've used Astra, and with all of these themes, you can actually use the Divi Builder plugin with those themes. So the Divi theme has the builder built into it, but there's also a separate Divi Builder plugin, or Visual Builder, I can't remember what, I think it's Divi Builder plugin, that works with any other things. So any other themes. So make sure that you use that. If you do anything with Astra and any of all of that you can use Divi as well. Rick had to go. Bye, Rick. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And Radapilu, I cannot do that. Rat, sorry, said that what he meant, or she meant, was this kind of streaming video and in Spanish. And we, one of the things about that, I don't honestly know if any of our content team knows Spanish. And that's a thing. I would love to be able to do that in the future. That would be fantastic. I don't know if we have multilingual actual streams coming anytime soon, because I don't, think anybody does. Other than I don't know. I can't remember. No, that's me talking to myself right online like a crazy person. But we do know that we do really promote like local WordPress communities in Spain and France. I know some people have looked up for meetups and different WordCamps that are going around. That there's WordCamp Paris. I think there's a WordCamp Madrid. I can't remember which ones I've looked at this year, but WordCamp Europe is a thing. So local communities are great. I really, really wish that we could do that. Colombian Hosting asked would be able to add subtitles into the videos afterwards in Spanish. I will absolutely look at the YouTube the YouTube settings on that today, so that when this one gets uploaded and saved afterward, to see how Spanish subtitles work, to be able to add it to it, because you're absolutely right, that is a possibility. I'm not sure if they're auto-generated, but I will totally take a look and see if that's possible for you guys. Thanks for the volunteer on Javier. Appreciate that. Always looking for champions at the very least to go out and spread the word and help everybody as you can. I was at a WordCamp a while back where I was that Divi guy, so I understand. So yeah, Colombian Hosting actually said I can auto-generate them. I will get on that after this. It'll be uploaded at some point so that you can see, hopefully, the auto-generated subtitles like my accent. So I'll certainly try that. So moving forward into the tutorials a little bit to show you guys what all is here. That they this one, y'all made fun of me last week because I didn't have any Yoast articles, and there is a Kinsta article on how to use Yoast. So I thought that one was really good because it's actually a very, very comprehensive article on how to use the Yoast SEO plugin. You really should be using it. It's good stuff. So that's good. We talk a little bit more about the WordPress and GDPR. It's kind of a how-to that Pagely put together. And Jason also put together, I think this one was published today. If it wasn't today, it was yesterday. The days blur together sometimes with when I'm looking at all of these. Oh, no, it was February 28th. Goodness gracious, it wasn't any time like that soon. He published it on the ultimate guide to creating a Divi child theme. Every one of you guys, go click on that link and learn how to make Divi child themes. Look at everything. Jason explains it all super well. There's a great discussion in the comments, and it really gives you an idea of how important it is to run a child theme. If you've never had a site crash because of a child theme, you will. And as much as we update Divi, it's a really, really good practice to just start out with a child theme. So shout out to Jason for getting that together and putting it there and really breaking it down for us on the why and how. So also through the tutorials, I love GoDaddy of all things. Like, I'm not I am not the biggest GoDaddy fan. I mean, y'all have probably heard me say that over the years. Like, they do a lot of really good stuff. My first stuff that I ever bought was at GoDaddy, but they try really hard. They're putting out a lot of really good blog content right now, and they have one called How to Tell Your Story on Your Website in 3 Easy Steps. And so what it is, I love this because their 3 steps are: talk about the people behind the business. That's the most important. Focus on connecting with customers, and include your company values. So those are incredibly, incredibly simple things. And here at Elegant Themes, that was one of the things when I first got onboarded, when I was talking with Nathan about this, these are the exact things that he was telling me about, like, how do I feel about them? And you can obviously tell that I'm very passionate about outreach with the community. And that's the best way to tell your website story, to tell your business's story, because every business has a story. You all have your principles. Everything that you do, I see Colombian Hosting, and I see things like Video Superhero, Uncle Social. You guys all have an absolutely fantastic story behind your name and your business that we that you have. So talking about the people behind it, like, why do you have this? Why do you do this? That you talk about the people, like I see in Facebook down here. You see my Facebook stuff is on the bottom and YouTube's on the top one. Lori is saying that's awesome, Donietta. That being able to talk about these people for the CTAs that she made, that it's just like, these people are wonderful. That your people at your company are talented. So talk about them, show off their talents and the things that they can do, and the community will respond to them as people, which makes them care about your business more. And, connecting with your customers, that's what I'm doing right now. I mean, really, I love you guys. I love this. I look so forward to this, being able to talk to y'all, that this has become one of my favorite parts of my week, because when I first started this, there were hardly any comments back and forth. So being able to finally have, it takes time to build up an audience. So you guys coming in and talking like this, it makes me so happy, because now you guys, like I've seen some of you guys say that it's nice to be able to talk and have this kind of close interaction with the company. And that is telling a story that we like people, that we are people, and then include your company values, that all the time on our blog, things like Donietta's CTA stuff, Jason's hidden Divi features, and these kind of things. Our company values are providing as many things of value, as many points of value, as much value as we can to you guys in the most elegant way possible. That we want it to be easy to understand. We want it to be something that's approachable and that you want to read and watch. So these are our values that we have as a company, and it tells our story. You put those three things together and you know what we do as a company. So with you guys, that's something that I really, really hope you take to heart when you're, trying to blog, coming up with your story for the company. You can market that, and a lot of it really comes down to people, and that's something that we that is really coming up in marketing right now more than anything else I'm seeing, is making sure that you're talking to people. So check out GoDaddy's blog on that, because that's something that they're actually working on as a company right now. There's some comments while I was talking in the comments about how GoDaddy has a 10-point controversy section on Wikipedia, and things like that, and that there is a lot of, don't like GoDaddy at all. That's understandable. They have a reputation, and they are working on that. Like, I will say, like, talking to the people from them, that they are a huge supporter of WordPress. They really sponsor WordCamps and things like that. So, like, they're really getting out there and working with people and trying to espouse these values. I've not used their services in a long time, so I can't say anything about it. I bought a domain there because they were the only domain place I could find to buy a .tv domain that was just quick and easy, so I did it. But that was something that they're trying, and I really like that they're becoming a more approachable company because of it. So you guys may want to, honestly think about that a little bit. I know we do it. Other companies are doing it. A lot of places are doing it now. And I have some comments that I'm reading through right now. How close the release is of what, Chris? I'm sorry. I may have missed like something here. How close is the plugin for the actual release? I don't know which one that is. Which plugin? Let me know. Also, LV says that she always jokes that that she chose Elegant Things because of the puppy eyes of Nick. That is, I see so many people talking about Nick's videos, the Nick Head videos, that there was some comments on the most recent ones where people were like, you need to stop using Nick all the time for these videos. And people were, and it was really funny to me, because it's like, I know when I see Nick's face on there, it's like, oh, cool, there was a new feature that was released that I didn't know about. And that's kind of a branding thing at this point where we know that. And so I think that's kind of interesting for me. Colombian Hosting says that loves that we added the cool and stylish Divi dividers. Oh my goodness, I love those dividers so much. Those are my favorite feature that we've put in so long. They were actually one of the main things, and really the only real thing that I was like, please add these in, please add these in, please add these in, whenever I was waiting to do something, because making section dividers in CSS is a total pain. And super happy about that myself. And Matthew, you say would love to know how to add custom dividers. I hope they add more soon. Matthew, are you saying that you don't know how to I see what you're saying. Would love to know how to add custom dividers too. I don't know how to do that. I know how to do it a little bit with CSS, and I don't like it. I hate it. And yes, Uncle Social Nick should be doing shampoo commercials. See, I sound terrible. If I say shampoo adverts, it sounds like I'm making fun of you. Like I just can't get away with it. But yeah, it's I totally agree. Seeing him in person, I met him in December, and he's absolutely. Jennifer asked me, my wife asked me whenever we were there, she was like, "Does Nick look the same as he does in all of his videos?" And I'm like, "Yes, he does." And it's like just has this magnificent hair like that I could never grow in my entire life. So I'm really. I was like, yeah, he does. Like he does need to be in shampoo advertisements. So moving a little bit forward beyond Nick's hair, there are some things like guide to implementing inbound marketing with WordPress. That one of them that's really big that I think you guys should look at is how to debug the error establishing database connection that a lot of WordPress installations get. That there are a few things that can cause it, and they break it down really well from findbestwebhosting.com. Like it's not one of the major WordPress websites, but when I saw that, I leapt on it to put in here so that you guys would actually be able to fix that. There is a how to accept Stripe payments on WordPress that WP Lift did, that there are just ways to do it, that I'd written a while back about PayPal versus Stripe, and a lot of people were saying that Stripe is much easier to implement now than it was. So check out the WP Lift article, how to create a private WooCommerce category where you can have private sales. Now this one I want to talk about, the next one, well, I'm not going to go into it because it actually does talk a little bit about mostly using a plugin, but I wanted to talk about the idea behind it, that it's how to fix the mixed content error in WordPress, a step-by-step guide. And this one happens when you're and the reason I want to talk about it is specifically explaining what it is in case you've never worried about it, in case you've never heard about that. Oh, bye, Rat. I see by Ratapula. I have no idea. But bye. Thank you for coming in. Hope to see you again. But this mixed content error is when you install an SSL certificate and you're running through, the user connects, and it's fine. Everything is set up, but there are still things on the website itself that aren't secured. Like sometimes images don't get the HTTPS designation, and there is an SSL plugin called SSL Insecure Content Fixer that is basically a one-stop shop, like a one-click, it's fixed. It has worked for me, and when I saw them show this on their website, that on WP Beginner, I just wanted to put it out there for you guys. I wanted you guys to know that it existed. If you've gone through the manual process of this, you have just like banged your head against the wall probably 100 times. So please check out this plugin. LV in the comments says that she's used it and it works like magic, and it really does feel like magic. I use the simple one. There's a simple, a content, and an off. There are also, and with tons of different options that you can choose. I just hit simple, I hit save, and my website loaded up. It was great. So check this out. It's in the tutorials on how to fix the mixed content error in WordPress. Like, oh my goodness. That TorqueMag actually did a really awesome post on how to translate a WordPress website with Polylang. That's the official WordPress translation software. I don't want to say library, I guess is the better way. So check it out on TorqueMag. That it's something that it works really well now. I've seen a lot of people talking about translating WordPress websites with Polylang lately, and it's not that difficult to use. You can do it according to TorqueMag, and I've never done it myself, but according to TorqueMag, you can do it in 4 steps. So anything that you can do in 4 steps is really worth it, honestly. So check that out. Translate your site and get that done. Also, along those same lines, LV asked, how is it SEO-wise? Do you mean the Polylang stuff, LV? I'll come back to that in a second whenever, the delay. But one of the other ones I wanted to point out on here was contributing to WordPress, a guide for non-coders. This is something that I don't even know how to put this. Do it. We don't get enough non-coders submitting anything to open source projects. That open source is really a coders and developers land, and it has to be. It really, really has to be a landscape where coders and developers are the primary players because you're making software. But software, having it functional is it's important. It is the bare minimum. Having a functional program is the bare minimum. But just having a functional program doesn't mean a lot. You're not going to get people to use it that way. So you have to have designers working on it. You have to have writers working on the documentation. And I think you should do it because we need document. I'm sorry, I'm watching the comments too. I got a little bit distracted, so I'll block you out for a moment. People who contribute to open source don't really write documentation because they're not writers, they're coders. And being a technical writer is something that is different than being a creative writer and being a developer and being a designer. And so you really, if you're good at that, being able to submit documentation on anything within WordPress that you think needs to be improved, you can do that. You can absolutely do that with the Make WordPress website, makewordpress.org. That you can do testing. They talk about that there are support forums that if you want to get involved in the WordPress community, that you can just get in and answer questions that don't have replies. Whenever I'm in a lull on content for writing for Elegant Themes, part of it is going in and answering questions in Facebook groups and making a point of and answering comments and things like that on the blog whenever we have time to be able to continually support. Like that is a team effort, and I can't do it anywhere near as well as our support team, but the WordPress.org forums do that as well. So if you're spending time on like Quora or anything like that answering questions, consider the WordPress.org forums as well. That's as close as we get to official support for WordPress. So that's something to think about. Writing documentation, again, let me ask you very, very please to write WordPress documentation if you can. It needs it. The codex is hard to read in some places, and if you know anything, it would be great. And this goes in with the discussion that's going on in YouTube right now is the Polyglots team. The Polyglots team is translating WordPress and free themes and plugins into languages around the world. That's what they do. They have global translation days a lot of times where just around the world people get together and translate WordPress into different ways. And I know that's one way that the Polylang stuff goes to actually translate the back end of WordPress for you so that when you do that, I haven't used it enough, just cursorily to play with on front end stuff, because a lot of people are talking in the comments right now about being afraid that adding a second language using a plugin is dangerous. And I don't know if this is a real example that happened to you, Uncle Social, but please tell me that something made your website say that your hovercraft was full of eels, because he said that happened. And yes, Colombian hosting, Google does have an auto translate feature as well for it. That the way the WordPress one works is it's natively in that language. That's as far as I understand it, at least, that it comes up natively in that language based on user location, where whenever you load it up from Brazil, that it will show up in Portuguese, or when you load it up from Colombia, that it shows up in Spanish, that kind of thing. So it's that's the way I understand that. I'm not 100% on it, but that's kind of the way I look at it. So look into contributing. Smashing Mag did it. They're awesome on different ways for us to contribute. And that's the thing. We can always contribute something to WordPress in some way or another and kind of give back. I'm looking on here right now to see what you need. I'm going through that article a little bit more closely about Polylang to see how that plugin works and how it uses with the official stuff, and I can't skim it enough just for the details right now to continue that. But this is crazy. I've talked a lot with you guys, and I've talked a lot, so I've got about 5 minutes left, and I haven't even gotten into the resources really at all. And so I want to just kind of run through them because I'm at the very end of the tutorials anyway. There are so many of them that that you can look at and take advantage of and read and really learn a lot from these. So check the description of the video for that. And in terms of the resources section, since we only have just a few minutes left, I wanted to really point out some of these really awesome ones that I saw that I really, really, really wanted to point out. So first of all, I have a Yoast article, you guys. Yoast put out a really cool one today. I saw this one today. Hey, it did come out today. That's why I only saw it today. Called Using Your Keyword in the Alt Text Box. So what this is on your site, when you hover over a website, that sometimes it will come up with a flag that just says USS Enterprise, if it's a picture of the Enterprise, something like that. And Yoast, they had a question on, should we, some people told me, this is the question, some people told me you should never put a keyword in the alt text box. I think I should. What should I do? They have a video about it, but basically what it comes down to is if the alt text says, hey, this is what the image is, and it's, something that for accessibility purposes, it is what screen readers and stuff like that use. So you're not using it for keyword stuffing. So if you have a picture of a traffic light, which is the Yoast logo, and your keyword is SEO practices, those aren't the same, because even though Yoast uses a traffic light for it and for SEO in its logo, SEO practices has nothing to do with the traffic light. So the way that the algorithms work, they don't match up. So the only way you should use a keyword as an alt text is if it has something to do with the image itself. So a lot of them that I'll use, for instance, on the Elegant Themes site is I was working on, what was the one I was putting on today? Oh my goodness, I turned it in and forgot what it was about. I'll just go with one that I wrote before. There's a CRM software that I was working on, and I would have pictures. Instead of just putting CRM software, I would make sure I put Zoho CRM software and stuff like that, where it's not keyword stuffing, but it's actually talking about the keyword as relates to the image. So that's something that you look at. Uncle Social says he wouldn't be surprised if the Google algorithms weren't using some AI to recognize image content as part of PageRank now. I would not doubt that even a little, the way that they're kind of programming us with CAPTCHAs right now. And the couple more of these right before I run out that I really thought were worth mentioning. Press Performance did an article. Let me see exactly the title. Pull it up on 5 indisputable truths about working in the WordPress ecosystem. And I had to pull this up. I had to tell you about it because I want you to read it. I really want you guys to read this one because it's, I love this. You will never lose when you give away as much as possible for free. I love it because that I wrote some novels, and I always give the first one away for free, and it gets people to come back and read the next two. And so it makes me like really like happy when I see people doing this, like photographers sharing stuff with Creative Commons where they release it open source, and then they'll get published in the New Yorker. Things like that where you can give things away for free, but also be able to get a return on them, but which is not doing work for free. You should never do work for free. You should only do what you give away, what you want to give away, and like you need to get paid for your time. That's not what this is saying. So I've talked about that a bunch before. And then there's also the last one I wanted to talk about was TorqueMag did a WordPress myths debunked kind of article, and it talks about WordPress is just for blogging. WordPress is good for just small businesses. WordPress is the least secure CMS, that kind of thing. And this is an article that I think any of you freelancers out there should be able to really take to heart and learn these arguments against these myths so that you can talk to your clients about them, because this is the kind of stuff that will come up, as well as the stuff that I mentioned in that Gutenberg article that I was talking about earlier on. I can just do this myself. Why do I need you anymore? And so there's a lot of reasons why they actually do. And this article on TorqueMag really breaks them down well. So the five myths and 5 truths that I thought were a good way to end the show today. So I thought that was neat. Some comments talking about dog weather. I'm not really sure what dog weather is, but man, if it would have puppies just falling out of the sky, as long as they didn't get hurt, don't hurt the puppies, that would be wonderful. Just literally raining cats and dogs, be happy for me. So I just wanted to say thank you guys. That's all for me. We're wrapping up. So I hope that you guys have an absolutely fantastic weekend. I hope that you come back next week. We do this every week at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and what looks like 10 p.m. Is it UTC, Uncle Social? So that we can do this and talk to everybody. I hope, and hope that we can get to know each other a little bit better every week. So have a great weekend. Read all of these cool articles in the description of the video, and make sure that every last one of you has a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. And check out Max. The next live stream that we've got is Max stream at 6 p.m. Eastern on Monday morning. So you guys will watch that. He always does a Divi feature overview and works through some stuff. And y'all know Mac, and he is awesome. Bye, you guys.